Welcome to central Wyoming. This is Fremont Canyon, just beautiful little canyon along the North Platte River between two reservoirs on either end of this section. There's Alcova Reservoir and Pathfinder Reservoir. And here the river's flowing mostly to the north, but the river's cut this really exquisite narrow canyon into these sheer cliffs of pink Precambrian granite. This granite's specifically about 2.5 billion years old. Some of the basement rocks that make up this area here in Wyoming. Nice calm morning. River's kind of peaceful right here. Really spectacular. One noticeable thing we can see with the granite are the fractures, the joints, the vertical cracks running through the rock, possibly either related to the cooling of the magma or extensional stresses in the area that cracked it as it got closer to the surface. This area is also really popular with rock climbers, and I'm leaning over a fence here, so don't think I'm risking my life, but you can actually see some of the bolts along a couple of the climbing routes here. There's a couple right here, and there's a couple over here to my right. A little bridge going over it. The sun's coming up. Yeah, just really spectacular, this little section here of Fremont Canyon. Makes you think a little bit about not just, well, it makes you think about the power of the water and how much energy the river has to expend to cut a canyon this deep into such hard resistant rocks. Probably about 200 feet deep in this section. I think it gets a little deeper elsewhere. Let's take a close look at the rock. Like I said before, it's this very pretty pink granite. Get down here a little closer. Very coarse grained. You can see the large crystals here. In particular, these large rectangular feldspar crystals. That's what imparts so much of the pink color, is the mineral potassium feldspar. There's a little bit of quartz in here, biotite, sort of the usual suspects you'd expect to see in this type of granitic rock. So really nice. Nice little overlook here, quiet morning, and we're gonna go explore some other areas here. I think there's some more geologic sites worthy of some exploration. So we'll go hit a couple more of those, and we'll see you at the next stop. Okay, so I've come maybe a mile, maybe a mile and a half along the road to the east, and the road cut here is spectacular. And this is one of the major geologic sites we find in the West in places. And I've done several other videos on this, but never at this location. And so I thought it'd be worthwhile to take a look at this. So let's work through this small little road cut together. Pretty simple and straightforward, but the significance of it and what it represents, I think, is the bigger issue. So we'll start here at the west end of the outcrop, and boy, the lighting in the morning is just perfect for looking at this rock. We've got this pinkish granitic rock, the same that we saw at the bridge at Fremont Canyon. So this is our Precambrian, about 2.5 billion year old, these basement rocks that formed deep within the earth as magma cooled and crystallized. You can see that characteristic pink color. So we've got basement rocks along the lower portion here of the road cut. And then as we look up top, before we go look up there up close, we can see there's some layered rocks sitting on top of those. And so what we have then is, if we have If the rocks above are sedimentary, as we suspect they are, and we have these granitic rocks below, then what we have, the only way to get sedimentary rocks on top of rocks that were once magma is to have some sort of unconformity between the two. These granitic rocks need to be uplifted to the surface, exposed, weathered, and then after they've been sufficiently weathered, then we can deposit these overlying rocks on top of them. And so not only is this an unconformity, but this is, you guessed it, the Great Unconformity. We've got these Precambrian rocks here, 2.5 billion years old. The rocks above, in doing some reading, I would have thought they were Cambrian age sandstones. In fact, I'll show you the outcrop here across the valley here in a second, where there's more of these rocks above, and they look a lot like the Tapete sandstone in the Grand Canyon. But the reference I have, and I'll make sure I put a link to it in the description for the video, they've done some work on it, and now they've reinterpreted these rocks based on some fossil evidence and some other data as being Devonian in age, so maybe more like 420-ish million years old. So what that does then is that makes the Great Unconformity here even more significant in terms of time. Instead of Precambrian rocks, basement rocks, sitting underneath Cambrian age rocks, here we have them sitting underneath Devonian age rocks, which are younger. So let's head up here. Again, we've got the granitic rock at below the unconformity, and then let's see what we can find going on here in the Devonian rocks. So there's our unconformity running through here, and then these Devonian rocks, you can see they're quite pebbly. They've got a lot of these pebbles in them, but they're mostly a sandstone, mainly a coarse sandstone with a few pebbly intervals where the depositional environment was a little bit more energetic. Some really neat colors in here. There's these more purple colors, and then grading up into more tans and browns as we look up on top. I'll probably find a way here in a minute to scramble around to the top of this as well. But let's look at the contact down in here. Yeah, still pretty sandy through here. I think the contact's more or less right here. This looks like the granitic material just below. And then, so I think the contact is this first purplish band here. Let's see, what do we have over here? Yeah, interesting relationship here. Not sure what's going on right there. That's just discoloration on the surface, or yeah, so remember when granite actually weathers, it forms a material called grus. It just sort of decomposes as it chemically weathers and breaks down. And that may be what we're seeing a little bit of there. Whoa, a little tricky up here. Nice view down the way. And yeah, I think the contact really is about here. Sorry, trying to get my footing here. The grus is hard to stand on. Yeah, right about here. Looks like that's where the unconformity lies. Let's go down to the west end of this outcrop and see if we can get up on top of it from that side and get a good look at the sandstone. Like I said, the sandstone resembles superficially to me a lot of what the Tapete sandstone, the Cambrian age unit at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, looks like. That's fresh in my mind because I just did a Grand Canyon river trip in late July. As we look across, as you can see across this little valley into the shade, you can see how ledgy this sandstone unit is forming this hillside here. So presumably, unless there's other structures or some weird topography going on, as we head east from here, we should leave the Precambrian granite and start to get into progressively younger rocks. You can see some of the granite way down off in the distance, past the power lines. And yeah, I think we can get up on top of this thing. Okay, so we should be more or less standing on the contact here. There's a few, yeah, chunks of granite at my feet. And then we get into the sandstone. Again, you can see some of these pebbly horizons with these maybe like 1/4 inch or so diameter clasts. So some conglomerate layers in there. And then up here at the top, it does become a little different color and a little more sandy. The grain size actually does decrease a little bit to more of a coarse grain sandstone. It pretty much just levels out here. But what we can see in the distance, and I'm assuming we might see that further along the road, is down here in the shadows, more of this ledgy sandstone, this Devonian sandstone we're standing on. But then just above that, in the sunlight, are some gray cliffs. If I had to guess from here, I'd guess it's limestone. But hopefully we'll be able to see that possibly up close as well. Anything else up here of interest? Oh, well, here you go. I just said there was gray rocks in the distance that looked like limestone, and here's a piece of what I think is, I'm almost positive, I didn't bring my little acid bottle, but this definitely looks like limestone here. Another piece right there. So this could be some weathered limestone that sits above the sandstone that's just been left behind, what we sometimes call lag deposits. But it looks like the rest of the top of this bench is sandstone. Big granite boulder probably right back down here. And then again, looking into the shade over there, we can see the ledgy sandstone. Spectacular, really awesome.